So what happening now with the AI is what happened in the Industrial Revolution when human labor was replaced by machines, and the strongest human cannot lift what a machine can lift. Same thing will happen with AI. The smartest persons eventually wouldn't be able to do the complexity of the tasks that AI could do very, very easily and very, very efficiently.
Win all in, play my cards right. Up the ante, one blackjack all night. Roll the dice, let it ride. What are the odds I got snake eyes?
This podcast exists because of the team at CASCM. CASCM is a B2B content production company helping organizations create and share their stories. We aim to create space where businesses can build assets and drive revenue through writing and talking. Content creation should be enjoyable and accessible. At CASCM, we love helping make that happen. Learn more at cascm.com. You said you're 10 minutes outside of Tel Aviv?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm traveling a lot to the States,
How often?
once a month, once every 2 months.
Okay. Whereabouts are you going? All over?
New York, the Bay Area, Miami, it says all over the
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. How are things in Israel? How are you doing?
It's so cold now in Israel.
Is it?
We are not used to that kind of cold. 10 degrees, 10 Celsius degrees. I don't know how much it is in Fahrenheit, but it's...
Yeah, it's chilly. So how's everything else? So
I try to ignore everything else.
you ignore it all?
That's the only way to go through life. Once you start with that, it just ruins everything, like all the mood to do anything. So I'm just ignoring everything. I'm focused on my mission, so many challenges to accomplish. So
I love that.
yes.
Yeah. Let's keep the conversation going from here if that's good. When you come to the States, with everything that's going on here and the polarization in politics, you see a lot. I'm sure you talk to a lot of people and they can't ignore it, right? It's very hard to ignore it because it's just in the news. You're on social media, you pick up your phone, you talk to someone, you go meet someone for coffee, and it's like instantly that's all we're talking about. Are you able to ignore it?
I just switched topic.
Yeah, I love it.
Watching the news, that's poisoning your mind. Okay.
Yeah.
And there is a good reason why there are only bad news on the news,
Yeah.
Very, very sad things are happening, but where your focus is where you are going. So I'm trying to avoid all the things that might infect my mind and just focus on my mission, trying to create good in the world, try to help others. That's my missions.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's become difficult for a lot of people because they do get down the wrong path. And, before we had our conversation over the last few days, I've been just, watching some videos that you've been on, a podcast that you're on, reading about you, and you have this self-betterment to you, right? You've been through a lot and you've seen a lot and you're surrounded, even if you haven't been, you're just surrounded by it. I think that is inspiring for anybody, right? Young people, authors, entrepreneurs, people who just come across your content, that they need to have, you would be better off in their feed than some political pundit or some news station. You know what I mean?
Yes, for sure.
You feel that. There's a vibe about what you bring to the table and how you present yourself that it's a good person to be around.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Just even hearing you talk about a lot of manuscripts are in the drawer. So many. My father wrote a book and it's actually about a U.S. Army Ranger who meets up with a Mossad agent and with our background. And, he's spent time in Israel. He's retired, right? So he was in dentistry, he owned a business and he sold his business. Well, now what are you going to do, right? He's going to play guitar. He's going to play golf. He's going to do all these things. He go to the beach, hang out with his family. What are you going to do every day? And he was writing a story. And I remember sitting down talking to him and I got to read it. I said, you should publish this story and you should keep writing it. To a point now, he's working on his third book and that's what gets him going. And putting that out there, it is amazing. And I think a lot of people could do that. But it's hard because what are people going to say about it, right? There's going to be a lot of negativity around it. Anyway, that vibe that you bring of don't leave it in the drawer, bring that out. I totally agree with it. So
we are a storytelling species. Along the history, people told wrote stories. This is what humanity is all about. So if you have the available time and the passion inside you, so writing a book, that's better than going to a shrink.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So every challenge you have, you can write about it and you can solve it with writing, with your own. It's an amazing approach to life. My mission is to make sure that those writings are getting published, because most of the people who will write a book will probably wouldn't go through the publishing process because it's so complicated, so inefficient, so costly, requires a lot of investment capital wise. So what Spice is all about is let's simplify everything. You don't have to understand publishing, okay? You don't have to figure out self-publishing. You don't have to get approved by the traditional publishers. You upload your manuscript, you choose a plan, we take care of everything for you, and the book is listed between 2 to 3 weeks. Everything is done, and you publish across 100 distribution channels worldwide, not only on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Baker & Taylor, Book
Yeah.
Million.
When you talk about writing is better than therapy, well, let me ask you this. Do you write a lot?
All the time. By the way,
All the time.
that's my next book.
Oh, wow.
It's almost done. Okay.
Yeah. So every day you're writing somehow.
Yes.
Do you journal? Are you just writing stuff, other things as well? Like,
Just clear my mind. It's like I get a sentence in my head and I'm like, okay, let's see how can it evolve. Okay. And it can turn into so many stuff. So it's like human beings, we are storytellers. Like that's what we do. Everything you do is a storytelling, like when you talk to a friend, that's a story. By the way, when you see the news, that's a story. Okay. Someone wrote that story, someone trying to explain the story. So books, it's the only way we know that for sure will last for ages. Okay. That will stand the test of time, because the only reason we know what happened on planet Earth thousands of years ago is because people wrote books. And who knows if the internet will be available in 3,000 years. But the books that were actually printed, someone might find them. It's a very nice way to extend our existence,
Yeah. And it's not all about, making money is important if you're going to create a book. You want to sell some books. And I think I've heard you talk about this, and we shared a lot. That book, for example, that my dad wrote, his grandkids could read it. His great-great-grandkids could read it. It doesn't matter if it's a New York Times bestseller. If it is, that's great, right? Because there's a whole hack to get to there anyway, right? So there's more to writing than selling. And there's more to anything than selling, right? But there's an aspect to that, right? Who knows? Maybe you become a speaker. The book doesn't sell, but the book got you in the door to become a speaker at conferences or for a company, or who knows?
That's it. Like my first book never succeeded, but it got me into publishing. So every person I've met who've published a book, they all said the same, that this is one of their most exciting, life-changing experience. It's like a birth. You're actually holding in your hands the story you want to share with your world, and that's your legacy. Okay, so in 80 years, we will not be here, but our books.
Yeah. How does it feel then? I read an article from The Defector, right? Kelsey McKinney comes out there and just blasts you guys, right? Calls basically Spine's a sham. And when you read it, they're not holding back. And there's this whole thing, and we'll get into this whole book publishing world and media. The fact that you and I are having a conversation on a podcast, like 20 years ago, you'd had to get a which you have PR people and media people, you got to get on the Channel 3 News or whatever that might be. It's different now. And I think the gatekeepers are very worried. And they are. Legacy media is very worried, as they should be. We just watched in the US with the election. It wasn't CNN or Fox. It was podcasting, YouTube stations, right? Books. Those things made the difference. How does it feel when that, again, you already told me that you'll just change the subject and I'm focused on my mission, so I could give a shit what this person's going to think of me. But when I read that, I'm like, wow, this person's going hard after it. And I think the fact that they're saying all that stuff proves that they're worried about what you're doing. And I don't think they totally get it. But that said, how did you feel about reading it? If you did read it, I don't even know. Or when you hear those types of things and those haters come out and those gatekeepers come out and say, what they're doing is bad and we're going to stop it, or we're going to put content out there that makes people think twice.
So my approach to that is when you have a message, when you try to create something, the bigger thing you're trying to create, the bigger is the resistance. So what I'm here trying to do is I'm trying to democratize publishing. Okay. I'm trying to tell the world that anyone can become a published author. But by the way, anyone needs to become a published author. And I can make that happen with my technology. And for them, it might be a bad news. Okay. Because in the publishing, how it used to work is that you had some very smart guys who they used to decide who should be published and who shouldn't. Okay. And that's the old way of publishing because 95% of the times they're wrong. Okay. So my approach to that is publishing is a numbers game. The reason I have the highest best-selling books in Israel is because I publish the highest numbers of books in Israel. Okay. So as you publish more books, you discover more commercial success, you discover more best-selling authors. So my approach to publishing is very different than their approach because, for example, let's take the difference in approach between Netflix and YouTube. Netflix try to choose their content wisely, okay? And they think they know what you would want to watch, and they invest a lot of capital into the content. But eventually, I have nothing to watch on Netflix, okay? But on YouTube, everyone can upload their video to YouTube, okay? Either if it's $1 million in production video or someone with his smartphone, everything going to the same platform, okay? And let's let the viewers decide what is better, okay? So that's a democratization of video content. And YouTube is much more profitable than what Netflix will ever be. So same thing in publishing. The next stage in publishing is the democratization of the space. So I believe that as you publish more authors, you will discover more successful one. You will gain more best-selling authors that will be loyal to you and will stay with you as you grow with them. So same thing I did in Israel, same thing I'm doing in the States right now, and I'm using the power of AI to do so. So what I try to say is like, is actually writing the books with AI. Like it's trying to say the opposite of what we're actually doing because we are here to support human creativity. I'm here to empower authors with the power of AI, not replacing them, okay? Which is what they are afraid that I will do. But my mission, when I started Spines, my mission was, how can I get 1 million authors published in my lifetime? And I realized my only chance of succeeding doing that is by amplifying my leverage with AI. Okay, so that's what we are doing. And so let's go back to the example between the Netflix and YouTube. So yet when you're uploading your video into YouTube, you need to understand their algorithm. Okay, so same thing with books. So what we do, we use the AI algorithms we develop to improve the chances of the book to succeed. So we scan the book, we understand what it's about. Now we start recommend categories. Choosing a category, there are over thousands of categories to choose from. You have to choose it very wisely. That's what will determine if the right audience would have a chance to actually get access to your book. Because if you wrote an amazing book, but it's on the wrong category, no one will find it. And then we know how best-selling covers look on those specific categories. So let's AI generate covers that looks the same, okay, that might have more success rate than other covers. And we also do the metadata optimization. That's like the SEO marketing for the book. So we increase the visibility of the books on the platforms because we understand the algorithms. Okay, so and we optimize everything with AI. So when you go to an Amazon expert, he will go and do a category research for you. He will work on the metadata. So our tool do that automatically. So that's a new message, that's something that wasn't available before the AI era. So if you have a strong message, if you're trying to do something great, you will hit a resistance. I'm not about to stop anytime soon. I am backed by the top tier, most professional investors that a vision can get. Okay. So having Oren Zev, he was one of the first investors at Audiobook. So he understands publishing. Okay. Also, Mike Eisenberg, he published 9 books already. We also have Dan Senior on board. So having all of those very, very smart people who are helping our cause, and not only by giving me advice, but actually giving me capital to do great stuff. And the end result is that the authors are happy. Okay. The reviews of the author of our authors, that's much more important than to read what any reporter will say about us, because those actually the audience we're trying to help, and we are making life easier. And that's why we grow so fast. We grow second in a year with more than 1,000% in revenues. I know a lot of startup companies who accomplished that achievement because we have a very strong product market fit. We understand the authors, because I'm an author and I'm also a publisher, okay? And I understand what needs to be done to get the publishing space to the next stage. And that's what I'm trying to create.
Well, a lot of authors would never be published without you, right? And that's what the gatekeepers, I guess, want, because they want to make sure their book's there and no one else has the chance to even play in that game. And that's scary to them. Like you just said before, it's such a good example with YouTube. Like, think how many hours are being watched there as opposed to on the general television stations. They're not watching it anymore. And then like people can make judgment. Like, well, why would you watch that on YouTube? That's just someone playing a video game. That's judgment. And like you said, they're wrong. That was a crazy number you threw out there, 95% of the time. You know, they're using their bias, their judgment. It's like in sports, you know, a lot of it was based on scouts who have watched, pick a sport, right? Football. And they're watching, they can decide who's going to be the next great player, right? But, well, now we have algorithms, we have analytics, we have all these different things to help this, to figure that thing out, to use the human element mixed with computers. I mean, it's happening everywhere. And I think people are scared of it. And to go on the art aspect of it, the creativity, I don't think you're telling people to stop writing. I don't hear that or see anything that you're talking about. It's like you use the word before and use it all the time, is leverage. You're just leveraging, like maybe you can't come up with this, but you have the story. Now we just need to leverage that story into turning that into a book. So, I mean, you came on here and the first thing you said basically was like, write. It's better than therapy. So you're not telling people to not write. You're encouraging them to write more and then leverage the tools that we have that are changing every single day. I mean, now, you were doing this before ChatGPT became like a mainstream thing that I was using on my phone or computer, right? Like, but now with Grok out there and all, right, Perplexity and Claude and the list goes on and on and on, and Cursor, right? Like, we'll hang up this call, our recording, and there'll be an update to one of these platforms that'll be amazing.
Yeah.
And they're not detectable, right? I mean, the writing is so good. I've heard really good writers say it's already better than what I can put together in writing. But that doesn't mean to not write, right?
So like the way I'm look into that is that the technology will only get better and cheaper. AI will integrate in anything, okay? Everything you do will have AI component into that, books included. But I believe in the future, there will be two types of books. There will be AI generated books and there will be human written books. And there'll probably be some gray area between them, like human, which got assistance by the AI to write their books, okay? But like you go to IKEA and you can buy a chair because it was created by automatic machines, it's much cheaper than if you go to a wood artist and then the chair will be cost much, much more. So I believe same thing eventually will happen with books. So if you want a book that was written by human, and that cannot be perfect, okay? Because it's created by human craft. So it will cost more. It will be much more valuable. Then you will have the cheap AI generated content that you can buy for mass and read as much as you want for $1 a month. I don't know, okay? You will have both, but that will never replace the human need to share stories, to write, to storytell, to publish books. That's a human essential. That's something we humans will always want to create more content. And I believe that there are a lot of tools that will help them. I believe soon the technology will be at a stage that AI could be a very, very good ghostwriter. So let's say you are a very, very busy business person. You have no time to write your own book, but you can go to a ghostwriter. He will interview you and he will turn that into a book. So eventually the AI could do that as well. Okay, eventually. The technology is not there yet. You know, everyone in the Silicon Valley says that 2025 is the year of the agents. Okay, that AI agents will do a lot of stuff. Probably they will be able to write books soon, but now it's not quite there. Everyone works with agents. know they have a memory issue. Okay. So it's like they start to forget stuff. It's very hard for them to keep a narrative for very long article. So if you have a 16 pages book, probably the AI can help you. But if it's a 100 pages book, 200 pages book, it's not there yet. Okay. But soon, 6 months time, year time, it will. And then you will start to see the shift of AI, like a whole books reading by AI start to be integrated in our life, in our reading habits. And that's something that will happen. We cannot stop it. That's not my vision, by the way.
Right. That's just what's going to happen. Do you think, we talked about YouTube, like anyone can upload, you got all their content, right? Netflix is creating more TV shows. Instead of watching an hour and a half movie, you're watching like hour-long mini movies, 10 in a row, 20 in a row, right? I just heard someone watch Breaking Bad and they watch all 6 seasons within 5 days. I'm like, that's crazy. But it's amazing, right? That you can do that. Do you ever think, or what are your thoughts on there could be too much content? Or is there just not enough because we need more? Because before, there was only certain people that could tell the stories at mass, right? Like you and I could sit down and we could tell stories, but for other people to see it, so like we can go publish 1 million videos on YouTube and no one's going to stop us. We can do it. Is there ever a point, if there's AI created content, this, that? I mean, I've heard of things of content could be in anything, video game. Like you could say the AI is going to create the video game you want to play right now. I want to play a video game about this, this, and this. And it's going to create the game and you go and play it. I want to read a book with this storyline and this, but I don't know the ending. They'll create something for me, write it for me, boom, I want to read it right now. And then they do it or make a movie about it. Is there a point in time where there's just too much content?
I don't think so, because we're going to hyper personalization where you can read whatever you like and it will be optimized for what you like to read or what you like to watch. And we can already see that with marketing platforms, okay, that everyone try to hyper personalize the ads. So it will go into content as well. And with the power of AI, it will be possible. And some of the critics we get is like, you will overflow the world with books that no one want to read. And I'm like, there are already 2.5 million titles published annually in the States. Okay?
Yeah.
That's a huge amount of books.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in 2025, I'm only about to add another 8,000. Okay. So it's a drop in the ocean. Okay. And eventually I'll probably be able to publish 100 titles a year. Wow. Still, there are 2.5 million titles published annually in the States. It's huge amount of books. And I believe soon more books will be written because AI assistance tool will help people write more books. So more books will be published. So the market will probably expand to 3, maybe 5 million titles a year. So it's already happening. Now, keep remembering that a book, it's an evergreen product, okay? It's someone can read my book in 100 years time, 200 years time. So it's not like if no one read it now, no one will ever read it, okay? Eventually it will meet its audience. And even if my book has helped to only one person, every person is a whole world, you know? So if I spent a year writing a book and then went through a publishing process, listed to the world, and now someone read it and it gave an impact into his life, for me, that's a win. Okay. So not everyone's supposed to be New York Times bestsellers with millions of copies sold and help millions of people. Like every person is a whole world. So keep focus on the creativity process of telling your story, sharing your idea. By the way, publishing a book, there is a lot of additional, let's say, value you are getting from that. Is like you automatically gaining more credibility, okay, as a published author, okay? You can become an instant expert in a certain area because if you published a book on that specific topic, you're probably an expert into that topic. So if you're a business owner and you're trying to brand yourself as an expert, if you want to become an authority in any kind of area, publishing a book, it's a very, very good way. It's kind of hack, you know? People have in their minds that if you publish a book, you probably know what you are talking about. There are a lot of benefits of being a published author, not only if my book will actually help people. And for my approach, I believe that everyone should publish a book. So there will never be enough books that can be published. And think about it, like until this time, there were about 100 billion people who walk this earth, okay? most of their stories you can never find, you can never read, you will never find them. Okay. Even if you go to the history books, what they wrote about? They wrote about the kings and the generals. Okay. They never wrote about the simple persons. Okay. The ones who actually went to battle, the ones who actually crafted the swords. You cannot read their stories. But now, back then, no one could read or write. Now anyone can read or write. Okay. So everyone have the opportunity to write their story and share it with the world for ages to come. So why not?
Yeah. Well, it's a big deal. Like you think about World War II stories that, a lot of people are passing away. They're 90, 100 plus years old or no longer here. And that's very sad because we do have a lot of stories from that. But we have less stories than we should have. If that happened today, think about how many books would have been written, just like you said. And it's the male person in the Army or the Air Force, right? Like there's the little nuances, like you're saying. And I agree with you. What if 5 people heard it? What if your great, great, great granddaughter read it? Like, what's the return on that? And how short-sighted is it for a publishing house, a big publishing house with all the money that they have, or the authors that claim to be these great authors, to say, well, we're the only ones that can write that book? I can't stand that narrative. It drives me crazy. And so when you have someone like you out there, that should be helping it because you're not competing for the same authors. And even if you were, so what? That's good. That's a good thing. If you win one and they win one, that helps everybody. Then everyone's got to get better. That's like this whole AI race. If ChatGPT was the only game in town, that would be a problem. We need more, and they should all want competition. The lack of competition is an issue. So what if you take some of their authors? More stories. I agree with you. I obviously fired up about that, and I know this is like a big mission for you. There will be people impacted. They already are, and I've seen it. We work with a lot of editors, and I've noticed editors are losing clients like at a rapid pace. Now, hey, that's civilization. That's life. These things progress. Things change, right? When the car's invented, it's like, man, the horse and buggy is not going to do as well anymore. So if you're the last one riding that or selling it, you might run into some business problems. But what happens with editors?
So that's an amazing question because in Spines, what we have the AI-based proofreading tools that will proofread your book and fix everything for you. But a lot of our users are actually choosing to add a human in the loop that will do that with them. So let's say our AI tool has suggested any kind of improvement, but still a human being has to approve that. So having an editor in the loop, that might help. But as you said, as we progress, you will see that AI tools will replace a lot of jobs that are slowly but surely will become irrelevant. Okay. Like video editors, like, I don't know, Uber drivers. Like there is this crazy company, Waymo, okay? You can actually order a car and it without a driver, okay? So you can say that, okay, that will hurt all the drivers, but that's progress, okay? So do something about it. Be part of the change. Don't try to stop the change. So by the way, the only reason I started Spines is because about 2 years before ChatGPT, I realized the AI revolution is coming, and I have 2 different choices. Either I will lead this opportunity in the world, or I will become irrelevant by it. It might take a decade, but if I'll start now, I will make sure I could still help authors with this technology, okay, and not become irrelevant by it. So this is why I started Spines, because I realized the opportunity, okay, and I realized that's a new way to leverage the value I'm trying to give authors. Instead of doing that only in Israel, human-based, let's do it all over the globe, AI-based, okay? So it's a way to leverage the value. And you cannot stop the progress, okay? So what's happening now with the AI is what happened in the Industrial Revolution when human labor was replaced by machines, and the strongest human cannot lift what a machine can lift. Same thing will happen with AI. The smartest persons eventually wouldn't be able to do the complexity of the tasks that AI could do very, very easily and very, very efficiently. So we are going to that stage in probably few years' times that every industry will be affected. So whatever industry you're in, trying to be part of the change, maybe lead the change, evolve with the change. Don't try to stop it, because eventually it will happen, and anyone who trying to stop it will probably become irrelevant. So
Yeah. Well, that's what you said. To go with it. That's what you said at the beginning. When all this other noise is coming at you, change the subject, do something positive with it, because it's just going to get in your way, right? Like, yeah, editors are going to lose jobs, but that doesn't mean an editor can still write. Like, maybe they can create a business. Maybe they can get involved, reach out to you and say, hey, I'm a really good editor. Here's my work. And all of a sudden, you're bringing them books to edit at the human level. Or they become, you hear about like game engineers, if they're working on characters like in a Fortnite, if they can update, let's say 10 characters by themselves, but they can 10 times that and do 100 in a day, they're more productive, because you still want the engineer working on that stuff and working with the AI, because they understand that more. For audio engineering, for a podcast is a perfect example. We can produce more content now because we can utilize the AI tools. We still have the human element to it. And some podcasts are 100% human. Sometimes they're 100% AI. It just depends on what do you want? How fast do you want it? How edited do you need it? Right? How mixed do you like? There's so many aspects to it, but we can 10 times our output based off of that, as opposed to, well, we're only going to do it this old fashioned way. It just doesn't, that's like you said, not being part of the change. What I find fascinating is 2 years before ChatGPT went mainstream, you saw this. Now, there was things out there, and it was like a time probably of like Web3, NFTs, like those are the big buzzwords of what was happening. Artificial intelligence, obviously, that's been talked about in fiction books for a few decades now, right? Like everyone knew this was coming to some degree. We didn't understand how. What did you see? Like, was it military background? Did you see things there? Or the people that you associate with? Like, what did you see to say, this is happening and it's coming like right now and I need to make a change like today?
So actually, back in the day, I just finished structuring the management team in Niv Publishing, and I started to do some M&As. I acquired different publishers, integrated them into what has become Niv Group, and I started to do some angel investing. I invested in 15 startups to date. And while I'm meeting those tech founders, I actually realized what they are working on. And that gave me a glimpse into the future, because if everyone working on something, eventually a leap in the ability in the technology will happen. It's only a matter of time. In my craziest dreams, I couldn't imagine that it will happen so fast. Okay. I tried to work with what was available back then. I started with my own capital. Soon I realized my capital will not be enough. So I started to fundraise from angel investors and from VCs. And I learned on the fundraising journey. So that was a very different journey as well. And when you're trying to build a startup company, you need to find an access to capital, because that's a very capital intensive task. So the only reason why I came into that is because I've met with a lot of tech founders and I realized what they're working on. I realized the opportunity. I realized the AI revolution is coming. It's only a matter of time. And I tried to find a way to scale the business outside of Israel. And I realized, okay, it's my best opportunity to do that. Use the power of the available tools that was back in the day. And I built an MVP. I started to generate revenues from the 5th month of the life cycle of the company. And a lot of startup companies, they are trying to develop this amazing product and they never try to meet the market. And eventually, when they try to, they realize that no one will actually want to buy their product. So what I did, I developed a very, very simple process, which was far away than what we have available now, but I started to generate revenue very, very fast. And that's what attract a very, very intelligent investors into investing in Spines. And that's what helped me keeping on developing the technology and take it into what it's right now, which is an amazing tools. We can do the ebook, the print ultimate book, the audiobook, everything done by AI, everything done very fast. So
yeah, you stay in the game long enough, you're around the right people, you start to get the clues as to what's going on. What are other people working on? And so they're feeding that into you, and whether you're just sitting down for lunch with them, right? And then they're sharing stories. You're like, wow, this is happening. And to your point about like, if you're on the sidelines and not paying attention, it's similar. Like, I'm not having this conversation with you if we don't have a longstanding podcast with, where we're very curious about all these different topics, and we kind of start going into AI, and then start media companies and companies start reaching out to us to say, hey, we want. That's like a very basic example, but you have to be in the game to then When someone wants to talk, they'll talk.
Yes. And as you said, it's like you are collecting clues into trying to have a theory about how the future will look like. And sometimes it's not a clue. Sometimes it's something that everyone speaks about. Like everyone speaks about agents right now. So we realize that okay, the next stage of AI is agents. And if you are a tech company and you do not start to integrate agents into your strategy, you are doing something wrong. Okay. Because if so much money in the Silicon Valley was poured into startup companies who are developing agents, sooner it will happen. So you need to always pay attention to what's going on in the Silicon Valley, because what they are working on today is tomorrow's future.
Yep. Audiobooks is perfect for that, right? Because you watch Audible, Amazon company, explode. And then you start talking to people. I don't listen to books. Okay. And then, a year later, 6 months, whatever, they're listening to books. Like everyone's got. And then Spotify gets in the game and they're like, well, it's all music. They dabble in podcasts a little bit. And then they say, well, we're going to go into books. And pretty much all the books are on there. And if you have a premium account, you can listen to any book for free, you get 15 hours, you get whatever that is. But when you start seeing the dollars that these companies are putting into audiobooks, they're not doing that just to mess around. Like they're very serious, and the audiobook business is blowing up. And obviously you see that as well because you've gotten into it. But it's a perfect example. And you watch it play out from the money side, but you also see it play out from the personal side, because the same, I don't listen to podcasts, then they're big listeners of podcasts. I don't listen to books, big listeners of books, right? Like they got the monthly subscription. So yeah, I think that's a perfect point. And how are you doing? I mean, take that any direction you want, but then throwing in the mix of like how you're taking these books and using AI to also create audiobooks.
So what we do is we develop the ability we have about 60 voices, synthetic voices. It sounds like real human beings, okay? Like you cannot distinguish between real human being and how it sounds. And you can actually start to assign voice to characters. So you can start to create dialogues, because if you want to create an AI version for your book and you try to have few voice actors in the audiobook, it's a huge production. It will cost you tens of thousands of dollars to create. But now you can choose a voice, assign it to a character, and the whole audiobook is generated for you. But now there is a problem, because there are few words that the AI still mispronounce. So what we did, we had a proof listening tool that the authors had to actually hear the whole book, find those words, and change phonetically the words to fix the pronunciations of those specific words. So what we did, we developed an algorithm that can actually estimate where the AI will probably mispronounce few words. So instead of proof listening taking few days, now it takes few hours. Okay, so we improved that as well. And now we integrated the ability of creating the author's own voice. So let's say you want to use your own voice. Instead of you going to 40 hours into a studio, you can send us only 3 minutes of your voice. We can create a model out of your voice and generate the whole audiobooks, your own audiobook with your own voice. And about 40% of books consumption nowadays is voice. Okay. So, however, not all the books are available in voice version. So now with that technology, more content of books will be available with audiobook versions, and it will be available through all the platforms. So it will be a huge opportunity for authors to meet their audience. So being a player in an audiobook playground, that's something that was my strategy from day one. I waited for the technology to be available, and now it's actually working, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, when I saw my father's book come out, he had friends, retired, let's say, and they said, let me know when that book comes out in audio, because I don't read anymore. So people have preferences now. What does Amazon say about all this, whether it's the audiobook stuff or the AI generated, right? The question gets in there with someone self-publishing. Has any of this been done by AI, right? That question's popping up in a lot of different places on different applications and whatnot. What have you heard from them? Because obviously, at least here, they're the biggest seller. I know there's other platforms as well in the world, but yeah, go ahead.
So unfortunately, still today, by the date of this podcast being recorded, maybe tomorrow it will change.
Yeah.
On Audible, you cannot upload synthetic voices, okay? Like audio that was generated by synthetic voices. You can do that with the tools that they developed, but still, there are a few challenges with that. You have to give them the copyright. There are a lot of challenges into that. But my belief is that the only reason it's the way it is right now is because they don't understand that it actually sounds even better than humans. Okay. And the technology is being developed so fast. So I believe soon enough, they will unlock this up because they want content. Okay. And a lot of books that are now being like audiobook versions of human created books that are being generated with AI synthetic voices. There are a lot of platforms that you can, okay, upload those books, but you can't upload them in the ones you want, okay, like audio. But I think it's only a matter of time until it will be available because those platforms, they want the content, okay? And if it's good quality content, they will allow it. If it's a poorly generated audiobooks, it probably wouldn't be allowed. So I think there will be a barrier of what's considered something that can be.
A review. Yeah. I mean, right now they still review it and it takes, I think, at least 10 business days for that audiobook with a professional done. And it's got to hit, the sound's got to be perfect and all that type of stuff. It takes 10 days. I would imagine there's worries about, taking an actor, right? You take George Clooney's voice and all of a sudden it sounds really close to George Clooney, but he didn't approve of that and he's not getting paid for it. That's an issue, right? And I would imagine there'd be a lot of bad actors out there that would take advantage of that. And that could be a concern with legal that and copyright. That would be a problem.
There is a startup company that we are communicating with that they actually go to celebrities and license their voice model, okay, and sell it to companies like Spines or other companies that look for unique voices. And that will probably cost much more. It will be a premium service. But I think that in 3 to 4 years' time, every celebrity will have a voice model for lease that they can actually sell their own voice for you to create whatever you like with, as long as it doesn't say stuff that.
It's all above board. They knew, if someone approved it. It's funny because you look at these companies, whether it's Amazon or Google, and you look at reviews and just the review culture of any sort of product. Most of it's bullshit, right? Like it's spam, it's click farms, it's whatever. They're using bots to drive these products up that have no one's ever bought it or they did buy it. And it's all fit. Hotels do it constantly. I mean, it's a real problem. So they're already been infiltrated in a really negative way. That's more negative, I would say, than having an AI book out there, let's just say. Especially if it says, hey, this book was AI generated. I don't know if that has to be there. But like they'll talk out of both sides of their mouth, which is really frustrating. Because then as the consumer, I don't know what I'm buying because the reviews say it's 4.5, 4.7 stars, but that's all fake. And that's all generated by everything that we just discussed. And that's really frustrating because, like I just said, they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth.
This is the world we live in. I think with all the deepfake technology, like soon it will be irrelevant whatever you said, you didn't said. Like anyone can take this podcast, create my face model with an AI tool and start generate content that I might said, I might didn't say it, but who knows? Okay.
Who knows?
This is the future.
Yeah.
And I don't think we understand the complexity of that reality. Okay. Because watching a video of someone say something, like you can never know what the person actually said. It's a very weird world that we are going into.
Yeah. What's your advice when you say all that and everything that you've talked about before and changing the subject, right? And all the news and media and all this, everything that's coming at you and the focus that you have a mission, like I'm on this mission, I'm going to do it. And you have these high school, university students, right? People are studying all different things, right? Everything from engineering to history to marketing to whatever. And they're going to come out into a workforce that's changing like every second. You could have studied engineering, you could have gotten good at coding. Sorry, we don't need any coders. Can you fly a rocket to Mars? Like, we want that type of thing. Not that they could do it, but they can contribute to it. Like, what's your advice from your experience to younger people today as they're coming up into this fast changing world? I mean, this is like, you said something before, and I remember what it was, and I'll pull it back out, like this hyper speed, hyper personalization, all this type of things that's happening. Like, what would you suggest that they be thinking about, that they be doing and reading and all that?
So I studied electronics engineering and I went directly into the master degree. And I realized like what I'm learning will never create an impact for a real company. Okay. And now that I'm actually interviewing engineers, I realized that I don't really care what they learned. I cared about what they actually did. So I think we are going into a future that whatever degree you have has no impact because the academic world is not updating fast enough. Okay. And if it take you 4 years to complete a degree, the specific era you are going to school and you're trying to understand about it changed so fast. So until you complete the degree, the industry completely changed. So I think the best way is to get your first job as fast as possible, even if that as an intern for a very low salary, just get into the industry you're trying to get into and start to see how can you increase the value you are bringing to the table with the power of AI. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to be a video editor for a media company, okay? And you come to work with the approach that I will hack the system. I will use every AI tool available. I will pay with my own credit card for those tools, okay? But I will triple the production, okay? I will create much more content than any other editors in this company. Soon enough, you will be the highest paid editors in the company, okay? Because you create so much value for your employer. So this is for the mid time. Like in the coming years, people who can use AI very well will replace those who do not understand nothing about it and don't want to do anything about it. So that's in the coming years. After that, I think the only, and that's my assumptions, like that's my hypothesis. I think that eventually the only job you could have is something that has human interaction. Okay, because that's the only thing that machine couldn't replace, the emotional connection between people. Like we cannot give away the paper. Okay, we want to read from printed books, even though ebook technology is an amazing, but still if you want to read it, but if you are 10 years old, you don't have the same connection to printed books. Okay, so for you reading it digital is much more comfortable. But for the people in our ages, we will never give away the printed books. Okay, it's something that is integrated within our life. So same thing will happen with human interactions. So all the people who are alive nowadays will keep be alive in 20, 30, 40 years, and they will never give away the human interaction. Okay, but the very, very young people, eventually they will prefer communicating with AI, not with humans. But still, we have about 20 to 30 years that human interaction is something that couldn't be replaced because we will be very old fashioned about it. Like when I'm getting called, but AI, SDR, AI sales rep, I don't want to have the conversation with AI. And when I'm working with a bank, I want to have a person in the other end that I actually can call him and can explain what I want. But younger people, they don't want to talk with a representative. For them to go into the bank website, do whatever they like, that's the best way for them to manage their accounts. But it's very important to me to have a real person that I'm communicating with. And I believe that will be still the future. But in the far future, I have no clue what will happen. So everything which is regarding human interactions. So if you want to manage people, if you want to I don't know, work in therapy, if you want to be like everything who has this connection between people, I think that will be the most important things that will lastly be replaced by AI tools.
Yeah. That's the soft skills. Yep. Which is going back to that, which I agree with. And a lot of that can come from reading a lot, right? I would imagine you read a lot, right? So you continue to read a lot. So that's why we need more books. Why would we not want more to learn more? And it's like customized for that individual. You could be in high school and college. You could just spend 4 years reading a ton and communicating with other people that maybe read similar books or professors and learn. Yeah, I mean, college can be something different.
But who knows? Maybe in the future we will have chips inside the head that you can download the whole.
Yeah. Well, you started talking about like the future and communicating with computers. Like I'm picturing like Ready Player One type stuff, where like we're putting on those goggles and we're entering the whatever verse is out there and communicating that way.
Who knows? But in the short term, just utilize whatever you can with AI to create more value into the market. And eventually the people who are doing that will replace the people who don't do that. So that's in the short term. But like in the long term, I think human interaction, it's the only things that will remain.
Yeah. Yehuda, this is amazing. Where do we learn about Spines? Where do we learn about you, connect with you, and keep this conversation going?
So you can look us up in Instagram, okay? Spines for Authors. We are now trying to build all our social appearance, okay? So we are just starting with that. Throughout the year, you will see that we will become more focused on social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, okay? We will be on LinkedIn, X, we will be on each channel, but right now you can find us on Instagram and YouTube, and soon there will be much more content uploaded to those channels. And if you are trying to publish your book, go to spines.com and you can read everything and you can see all the features of the product. You can start to explore, and you can book a call with a publishing expert from our team, and they can explain the whole process for you.
Yeah, that's great. And you appearing on podcasts like this, right? Telling stories, getting more out in the media to connect, to learn about what other people are doing. I would assume that's that and a lot more. And for obviously recognition, branding, for people to learn about your company and how serious this is.
Yes, we are trying to change the publishing space, to democratize it, to make sure that anyone who wishes to publish a book can do so, and to actually create an impact and make sure that people actually realize their publishing dream and making their books come true. That's what I'm trying to create.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Yehuda, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure, and I love learning about this.
Thank you so much, Rick.
This is a Quiet Loud Studios production, the podcast network where reflection meets amplification.